And we'll call the meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, I lost my chair. Roll call, Sandy.
Councilmember Stacy Green.
Present.
Councilmember Kim Green.
Here.
Councilmember Bob Hall is absent this evening. Councilmember Ken Palfini. And
I am here.
Mayor Sue Tavalero.
Here. Do we need a motion to excuse?
I move do we excuse Bob?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. First on the agenda, and there's some stuff in here that you guys need to listen to that I read today. We're going to start with a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Weed given to honor the retirement of Chief Martin Nicholas. No, he's on vacation.
Well, shouldn't we wait until he comes back?
No,
No.
no. He won't, yeah.
Are we ready for him, or?
Whereas Martin Nicholas, after 44 years of service, has retired from the Weed Police Department, and at the time of his retirement, he is the longest-serving chief of police in the state of California. And whereas Martin Nicholas started his career with the Weed Police Department as a reserve officer in 1975 at the age of 18. Whereas in 1978, Martin Nicholas graduated from the Police Academy at College of the Redwoods. Whereas in 1982, Martin Nicholas was promoted to sergeant, and in 1987 to chief of police, continuing to serve and protect the citizens of Weed. And whereas Martin Nicholas has been an active member of our community, joining the Weed Rotary in 1987, serving on the Weed Parks and Recreation Board since 1997, and coaching football and baseball for over 15 years at Weed High School. Whereas for 10 years, Martin Nicholas served as the area representative for the North State Police Chiefs Association. And whereas Martin has not only been chief of police the past 44 years, but when needed has filled the position of interim city manager. Now therefore be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Weed does hereby honor Chief of Police Martin Nicholas upon the occasion of his retirement after 44 years of dedicated service to the citizens of our community, the many council members, city staff, and his police force. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Weed to be affixed this 9th day of January 2020. Signed, Susan Tavalero. So did you find anything else about that? Okay.
Can we tell stories now?
Are there stories
Maybe
to tell?
remember he was about the third person, the third oldest holding that position in California? No, in the nation.
In the nation.
Nation.
That's what it's believed, there's no record of rank. The longest was a 51-year-old.
Records. Our demise.
We can make it any number we want.
We could, yeah, he's been here a while. And that's why he's on vacation. Okay, non-agenda public comment. Now is the time to, if you have anything that you would like to say that is not on the agenda, now's the time to say it. Please come to the podium and state your name and address. And we will not be able to comment on anything, but please feel free to tell us.
Good evening, Council
Hi.
and Ms. Mayor. I'm Richard Dingus, and I'm the Executive Director for the Weed Chamber of Commerce, 34 Main Street in Weed, California. And the Weed Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee has asked me to ask the City Mayor and the City Council if you would be available to attend the next regular meeting on January 15th at 5:30 at the High-Low Restaurant. The executive committee would like the city mayor to give the oath of office to our board of directors, and your consideration in this matter is greatly appreciated.
The 15th at
15th of January
15th at what time?
at 5:30.
Yeah.
And I have a couple other little announcements. One is the current events that we have right now. The Chinese auction is going to be on April 25th. Carnivale is scheduled for July 8th through the 12th. Rollin' in Weed is going to be August 22nd. We have tentative dates for new events. The Kite Festival, we're looking at May 23rd and 24th. We still need to bring that to a head. And then the Mill Days, we're looking at October, and if not this year, 2021. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be attending the Lumberjack, it is a conference up in Eugene, and we're going to be talking to them to see if we can put weed on the circuit in order to have a Mill Days here. And that generates anywhere between 2,000 to 4,000 people that comes into our area, and it's usually a 4-day event. So we're going to be seeing if we can't put that together within this year or next year.
Good.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes,
Where are you planning on having the kite festival?
we're going to be having it out at the,
Lincoln Park?
yes,
And the dates?
we have it scheduled right now for the 23rd and 24th of May.
Okay.
And if we don't have any wind, then we'll have to reschedule it. So,
We don't have any wind. That'll be the one day we
Thank
don't
you.
have wind.
I have a question.
Yes.
The rolling in weed, is that strategy, what you mentioned to me, is going to be different, having the cars do a certain structure and going a certain place? Is that
we're going to be having
different?
it over towards the community center at the park over there. We feel that that'll draw more people into town. We're trying to keep them downtown also, but there was such a success with McLeod having theirs on the park, and we spoke with a lot of people that would rather have it on the grass than they would on the asphalt. It's just a lot cooler. So that's where we're looking at putting it this next year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Sarah Montgomery, 5734 Antelope Court, weed, obviously. Okay, I wanted to discuss the general plan, which I recognize is on the agenda. However, this was just going back off of the previous discussion that the council had regarding architectural rules and what the facades of businesses should look like. I attended the Planning Commission meeting, and Mr. McKinley was there as well. And I had asked questions as what the expectation that businesses should be looking like and if there were parameters that people were expected to follow. There's not really any clear resolution in place at this point. At one time, there was something that they believed to be a Western theme, which was very open, and there's really no theme that we're going for the town. So I wanted to ask the council to draw up some sort of a resolution to be adopted and to go through the council, the Planning Commission, and that we come up with a cohesive theme that we expect for the entirety of the city, not just limited to the downtown, not just limited to South Weed, on what those expectations might be, and ask that maybe the council form some sort of an executive committee of business owners and other citizens that can get together and come up with some ideas to present to the council at some point in time to amend the general plan. So that's number one. Number two, I wanted to thank Mr. Ken Palfini for his ever-present self in various committees throughout the county. I think that needs to be acknowledged. I appreciate both yourself, Mr. Richard Dengis, and Mr. Raymond Strack, who are constantly present at various meetings in the Siskiyou Revitalization Network, as well as other committees throughout the county. So thank you for always leading us and appropriately making yourself and our community known. And I look forward to working with you on the pit that is coming up, which I'm sure you can discuss with the council and public at large. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Now we will open the public hearing. Oh, yeah, just skipped right over that. Council member announcements, meeting reports and comments.
Start with me first again?
No.
Thank you.
Ken, would you like to start?
Yeah, I get to go first.
Yeah.
That's cool. As Sarah brought up, there's several things that are going on in Siskiyou County. One is called A Point in Time. It's a homeless coalition, and it's a homeless count. So on 3 particular days in January, which this year, according to the federal government, are the 28th, 29th, and 30th, I believe, we will be gathering a group of hopefully weed citizens. I know Sarah's helping me, and there are a few others. There will be a public service announcement in the paper. We will be doing probably a few hours of training, and the training isn't really complicated. The training is about pretty much how to fill out a piece of paper, check a box. There's a couple rules that apply that are, again, it's kind of it's not a complicated procedure. You haven't? I have the paperwork. Right. But we will be passing those out. So if you do want to help, please give me a nod on my email. My email is use the city email and I'll pick it up. But again, if you're interested, look for a public service announcement. I also went to a Siskiyou Revitalization Network group, and that is a group of 12 communities throughout Siskiyou County. We're working on projects and events to build community and enhance commerce in our cities. If you are interested, again, send me an email. The group consists of, I guess, city council members, mayors, chamber members, and citizens in general. We also have the museum director in Mount Shasta attending, and so it is a building event. And I guess I will leave it that I went to the League of Local Agencies meeting, and I'll leave the discussion up to Sue when I'm done. Or Stacy.
Stacy? You want to be next?
I can. I was going to talk about, at the little meeting yesterday, one of the interesting pieces that they talked about was a Siskiyou outdoor recreation-like movement. And it's pretty large, and I'm trying to bring up the presentation here to read some things to you. I'm trying to give it to us so you can see it. But it's kind of a joining of 2 organizations that have already been in place. Let me see. The NAS, what's it, NAS? What's the NAS?
Mountain Runners.
Mountain Runners was one, and then the NAS, I'm trying to read it. It's the Nordic Center, there we go.
Yeah.
I knew it was an Ian, I can't say Ian's. But it's 2 of them, and so they joined together for resources, and they're trying to put together just naming all of the resources we have for recreation in the area. Of course, they're talking about Shasta and all the fun events they can have on there, but it's something that maybe we can put it on our server for people to have here. Well, she sent it to us right now. I have the file, so we'll see how we get it to you. But you can go on our I'm sure we can get it on our webpage. You can look through it, and they're looking for volunteers to help with the organization in different positions. Of course, money is always available, and they have some interesting activities. So, more than just snowshoeing or skiing or just trails. And you might remember a few years back, they started the trail initiative that's trying to link Siskiyou County with trails all over the place. That's now part of this committee. So they're trying to put all that together. So those who like outside activities, not just snow, but on trails coming from the whole Siskiyou County, they're trying to integrate everyone together. So I'll see how we can get that to you, if it's paper form or so, but that was very interesting, because, we heard, people start different things, you never see where things go. It's kind of good to see that these two organizations have joined together. And I think that's all I have. Just questions about our businesses that are opening and they're, things on Main Street and all over the place. People are asking from a community member standpoint, they want to know what's going on. So we should have some good activities based on what the mayor said last night and what we know about. We should have some good things this year. I'm excited about them, especially the car thing and the kite festivals, not just in Montague. That's all I have.
They also talked about this same group is going to host, it's a 60-mile bike ride that has been international, and it's now coming to Mount Shasta in August. I think that's what they said it was. It sounded very interesting. Kim?
I have nothing.
No? Okay.
Haven't been around. Never home.
I also attended the Lola meeting last night, and Stacy pretty much gave a good report. The Lola meetings is all of each city and special district, McLeod, Lake Shastina, come and report on what they have going on in their communities, which is really nice because it's nice to hear, what other communities are doing. In fact, the mayor from Mount Shasta told us that they will have 10 new restaurants by this summer in Mount Shasta. I said, okay. And we went to one of the new ones last night, and it was quite good. On Wednesday, the 29th of January, we will start again with our revitalization committee that Raymond heads up. And we've had, the chamber came the last time. We didn't have meetings in November and December because they were both going to fall on, yeah, I think Thanksgiving Eve and Christmas Eve, so we skipped them. But we will be meeting on the 29th of January right here in this room. And there was a lot of great ideas that came out of the October meeting of things that we can do to get Main Street going, to help the chambers, helping the city. Lots of great ideas if anybody is interested in coming to that.
Ms. Mayor?
Yes.
And just so the question that I asked when I spoke to Raymond also, and community members, they said, okay, they're meeting, where are all these ideas, where are they going to be? And I'm saying they're putting stuff together to make things happen. So it's going to be good to see. Don't be closed for ideas. Everybody's saying it's going to be all cannabis, or it's all going to be lifting or something. Who knows what it's going to be, but it's going to be businesses that will make our downtown more accessible and visible and attainable. I'd say it that way.
Well, we talked about parties. We did. Celebrations of all different kinds. Okay, you haven't thought of anything new? Ken, you're good?
I only thought, is it hard to have them in here when you don't have tables and chairs, or do you guys sit up here and? 'Cause
No.
you could always come to the community center and do it in the conference room.
Yeah,
We've thought about that, but I don't know, we just kind of sit around and round table in this room.
yeah, it works.
Wednesdays is a very slow night, so if you wanted.
All right, we can discuss that, yeah.
Okay.
It'd be worth discussing. I think in that conference room, it makes conversation easier.
Absolutely, yeah.
Down there.
Yeah.
This room's scary.
No, it's just as if, it's kind of like you're speaking to somebody.
Oh, we don't sit up here. We sit out there.
But it's just a different.
Yeah, okay.
I went to the planning commission and I spoke, and it was like, I was a little nervous sitting on that side.
Yeah, you're on the hot seat there.
Well, you wouldn't have your back to anybody.
Right, that's,
Can I tell you one thing real quick? Since Bob's gone, because Bob's the head of our faces. Sorry. Elizabeth Tabor, 242 Main Street.
Ken said you could.
Bob Hall is part of our Faces of the Community meeting, and it's going to be at the Siskiyou, at the College of the Siskiyous on the 20th, and it's open to the public. All the different ethnic groups that live in our community and around the community are each bringing like a potluck of that type of food. They're going to do some just education, introductions of themselves and their groups and stuff. So that is at the College of the Siskiyous, and I think it's where the
Student Center.
Student Center, but that is at 6 o'clock on Monday, the 20th. And I'm sure if Bob was here, he would have told you.
Are they making any postings on Facebook or social?
I'm not sure. There's a new lady that just joined, and I think that she's kind of been sending out the emails and handling that. I just think Bob's been a little bit busy.
Okay.
Thanks, Elizabeth. You thought of something?
I did think of something. So, because I saw it when you said Facebook. So if any of you remember the movie that was made by James Langford and Mark Oliver, from the Quarters to Lincoln Heights, they're going to be doing a screen showing of that in February, because February is Black History Month. And I have to look at the date. The screening is going to be at the community center. And then they also have a new project that they're working on, and it's called The Era of the Golden Ghost, I think, and it's about gold mining, with Black American gold mining in our area. And that's going to be a live performance at the Sons of Italy Hall on February 9th, and they are working with the high school softball team. They're going to put on a dinner, so it'll be kind of a little dinner theater event, and fundraiser for the softball team, and then we'll get to watch the play.
Well, that sounds fun.
It's awesome, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right, now I can get on to my public hearing. We're done, right? No, you haven't thought of anything else? So our public hearing is the council will consider amending the City of Weed 2040 General Plan Safety Element, adopt resolution number 01, 2020, approving a general plan amendment by incorporating the Siskiyou County Multi-Jurisdiction Hazard Mitigation Plan. Do I hit this? Ken? Public hearing is open.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is actually a twofold action. The public hearing itself is required because we're doing a general plan amendment, but the main focus here is to adopt the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. It was completed in July, and it's multi-jurisdictional, so all the cities were involved. We had the fire department active, Ron Stock was active. It has been undertaken by Siskiyou County in an effort to mitigate the effects of natural hazards and plan for resiliency in the future that respects the character and needs of the people who live and work in Siskiyou County. So that's the hazard mitigation plan that's part of this resolution. The other part is well, first of all, we're pretty much required to develop these plans, and each city is supposed to adopt them. But there's the other half of the coin here is to make it compliant with AB 2140, which is a state thing, not a federal law. We have to incorporate it by reference or have some sort of referencing to it in our city general plan. Now, the reason that that's important is because there's a point in time when the funding is available to be so much. Now, I got a quote in here that okay. It states that it's Government Code 8685. The state shall not exceed 75% of its total state eligible costs unless the local agency is located within a city, you got that, county or city and county, that has adopted the local hazard mitigation plan in accordance with the Federal Disaster Act of 2000 as part of its safety element of its general plan. So after we incorporate this into our general plan, we're eligible for more funding in case we need it. It's not really a requirement, this part of it, but it's very advisable to be compliant with this Bill 2140. So it's basically about pre-disaster mitigation, post-disaster. You know, let's put it this way, if we had a Bulls fire last week, we probably wouldn't be eligible for a lot of the funding that we would need, based on the fact that we haven't yet adopted this plan, and also that we're not compliant with 2140 yet. So basically, that's the gist of it. Planning Commission held their public hearing in December about the general plan amendment and adopting the hazard mitigation plan, and they recommended that both be adopted. That's what staff is recommending tonight. The resolution itself does have the language that we're incorporating into the safety element, and also does adopt, it's a twofold thing. So it's a two-action resolution, really. If you pass the resolution, we have adopted the plan, and we have also incorporated it into the safety element.
Okay.
Can I add to Keith's presentation? The council has seen this, the weed portion of the hazard mitigation plan in 2017. It was prepared, and I'd like to recognize the work that was done in preparing it. It was prepared by Darren Quigley for the city. With Darren's lifelong knowledge of our community, he did an excellent job in preparing it. We submitted it to OES in the county, and every community in the county except the city of Dunsmuir had participated in and presented a hazard mitigation plan. The last time this was done, which I believe, Keith, was 6 years ago.
Yes.
The county, in its wisdom, decided to hold back on moving forward on 2017 to allow Dunsmuir to do an element so that they could be added. Then the fire in Holbrook occurred, and it turned out that Holbrook couldn't obtain any grant funding because we didn't have a valid adopted county hazard mitigation plan. So the county decided that its holding off for Dunsmuir was not a good idea because it allowed the last one to expire. So they hurry up and moved it forward. Hurrying up for the county meant that it took 8 months for them to get it reviewed by FEMA and approved. It's been approved by FEMA as of July, and then they distributed it to us for adoption. So each of the entities that, with the exception of Dunsmuir, who is going to catch up one of these days, with the exception of Dunsmuir, all the other entities are going through the process now of amending their general plan to add the countywide hazard mitigation plan. But I thought that you'd have some comfort in knowing who prepared it, when it was prepared, and the fact that you saw it when you submitted it in 2017 to the county. So this is the second time that you've actually seen it.
With some added to it.
That I don't know. The portion the new part is the actual amendment to the general plan itself. Basically, the hazard mitigation plan is, one of those documents that's like that big, and I don't know what's new in it, but
Okay.
yeah.
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor. What does the 2040 date mean? What does that represent?
That's just the title of our general plan. It's the consultants that we hired added that to the title, so it's kind of foreseeing out to 2040.
So, and that's a question, because so there may be no health or hazardous things that happen or come up in how climate change is coming that we have to look at as a city until 2040? Is that positioning us in a certain mode? Because
No, it's just a part of the title. I mean, I just refer to it as the City of Weed General Plan. You know, because general plans are usually about 20 years looking forward.
Stacy, the city
part
can
of
move ahead to modify at any time. We're required to move ahead and modify on a specific time period. And the hazard mitigation plan will have to come up for review and approval prior to 2040. I don't know the exact date, but it will be before 2030.
I understand.
I think it's every 5 years that those have to be renewed. Is that
Yeah, I think it's every 5.
Yeah.
7, I believe.
Yeah.
That's the only question I had.
Okay. Ken?
I have comments, which I'll keep to myself, but I do now understand that as I go around with some of these communities that I get involved with, why Hornbrook is screaming about why Hornbrook is screaming about no availability of money to help them get their community back together. That's pretty disgusting. But anyway, that's my only
Yeah.
comment, but nothing else.
I've heard that same thing from Hornbrook. Kim, you're good? Any comments from the public? Okay.
I want to move it? I can,
Yeah.
you
Or do I close the public hearing?
have to close it. I'm sorry.
Yes. Public hearing is closed.
Do we have
Any
any
more
questions?
discussion?
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll put a motion. So the reading's going to be reading, right? I move that the reading in full of the body of the ordinance number or resolution number 01-2020 be waived, said ordinance, said resolution, being introduced for the first reading by title only.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I move introduction of the ordinance number 01-2020. I have to read the whole thing. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Weed approving a general plan amendment by incorporating the Siskiyou County multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan into the introduction of the public health and safety element of the City of Weed general plan. Be waived, said resolution. No.
No, that's
That's all the title,
Yeah.
period, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. That was hard. I'll get it, though. All right, we'll move on to the regular agenda. Public Works, the council will consider resolution number 02-2020, vacating right-of-way.
Keith is going to make the presentation on this.
Okay.
I believe that Craig has prepared the report for this one.
Has he?
Sorry.
Nobody wants to do it?
I have not prepared a report, but I could go over it with you.
Okay.
This is the vacating of the property that was supposed to be Southweed Boulevard, where the Love's Truck Stop is currently going to go into. And we had previously, was given a road right-of-way in there that we no longer need now that there's going to be a business going in there. There will be some water line that has to be moved, and that will be on the truck stop. But right now, we're not currently using anything in there, no use for it.
Okay, I can add to this now that I'm familiar. Essentially, when we approved the Love's Truck Stop, part of the project was kind of right over a right-of-way. And the owners own everything around that right-of-way. So they've been working to consolidate parcels, and this was one of the conditions of approval of the project. And it was also discussed in the original staff reports and found to be consistent with the general plan during those hearings. So we're moving forward tonight, adopting the final resolution to vacate the interest in the right-of-way. That basically, it means that it most likely go to the owners around it, because sometimes you don't even have to go through these hearings if all the property is owned by a single landowner around it. We have a water line in that, so we had to add a line in the resolution about how that's going to be relocated. So it was already discussed in the project. It was part of the EIR, and it was also part of the findings that we made for the conditional use permit, that this was consistent with the general plan. So that's what we're doing tonight.
Is that the water line that you told me they are doing the relocation on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Part of the conditions of approval is a relocation and the granting to us of a new easement. The water line is an overflow line, I believe, that comes off the water tank? Or
We have an overflow line and also the feed line that feeds the tank.
so they have to address both of those with their construction plans.
Are they giving us, Mayor? Are they giving us a new right-of-way to access the tank, or did we ever lose the access to the tank itself?
Not a new right-of-way. The right-of-way that we have is from the Newton Brothers, and it is that famous road that's called Lone Pine.
Sugar Pine?
Sugar Pine, that's what it's called.
Lone-
I can't imagine that I forgot that one. But Sugar Pine is an easement for the city to access its water tank.
That's how that road got there. That
Yeah,
troubles
that's
me.
how the road got built.
Okay, gotcha.
My question, Ms. Mayor?
Yes.
On the findings, number 1 says, "The lots with the lines to be adjusted are at the time of adjustment have all owners with an interest in the real property do consent to the adjustment." Based on the feedback that we had at the various meetings, is that still okay with the owners, that line and that legalization? That's
Yes,
still-
that's correct.
So everyone approves?
Yes, Love's currently owns all the way around it.
Only question.
Okay. No other,
I'll do it. I move that the resolution in full of the body of Resolution 02-2020 be waived and said resolution being introduced and adopted by title only.
Second it?
it's been moved and seconded to accept the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I move that resolution number 02-2020, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Weed vacating the right-of-way south of Vista Drive, APN 060552-420.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to, thanks Keith. B, administration. Council will consider introduction and first reading of ordinance number 458-2020 regarding the appeals process.
I've asked the city attorney if he would present this to you.
Yes, the municipal code currently provides that the applicant can appeal a decision of the planning commission. This expands that to include a number of other persons, such as the mayor, the city manager, and any councilor, as well as any property owner within 300 feet, just like you normally get notice to. Any of those persons can appeal a decision of the planning commission. Doesn't apply to recommendations, it only applies to decisions.
So my only question, that means if there was a project in my neighborhood and I didn't like the decision of the planning commission, I could appeal it?
Right, exactly right. If you pay the fee, if the council decides to adopt a fee schedule by resolution, you could require that as well.
Okay.
Is there, Ms. Mayor, is there any explanation we can tell as the verbiage of why we're doing this, in enhancing the contacts?
The issue came up in the last few weeks. We thought that there was, Ron and I thought there was a provision in the code that allowed more than just the applicant to appeal, and both of us were under the same impression. We searched the municipal code, it wasn't there, and we said, you know, that's something we should fix.
It's good for the public to know the reason why we're expanding the.
Good question.
Yeah, that was my question too. Why? Okay, and Kim, anybody else? All right.
You want to do it?
I'll move the adoption of resolution number 458-2020.
Ordinance.
Oh,
Ordinance.
turn the page. We got cheat sheets up here, folks. I move
In
that
words we have to say.
I move that the reading in full of the body of ordinance number 458-2020 be waived, said ordinance be introduced by first reading by title only.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I move the ordinance 458-2020, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Weed regarding appeals from the Planning Commission.
I'll second that.
That's right.
It's the ordinance.
He didn't say that, yes.
The ordinance has been moved and seconded.
Oh, an introduction, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to C, administration.
I can't even do it with cheat sheets.
Council will consider draft ordinance for mobile food vendors for discussion purposes and give direction to staff.
Yes, this ordinance is in draft form. We may make some changes to it yet. It's for your review, comment, and suggestion. Basically, we're trying to solve the problem of the mobile food vendor who makes a big mess and walks away from it, drives away from it, and interferes with the lovely community that we have here. So this deals with that, and then while we're at it, noise, smoke, all those kinds of things that might interfere with property use. This requires a permit to be obtained from the city. Now, we have some we have a state ordinance that was just a state law that was adopted just recently that deals with sidewalk vendors. Apparently in San Francisco and some of the larger cities, they had some real issues with sidewalk vendors. So we're sort of subservient to the city, to the state in terms of sidewalk vendors. But the other folks that set up on private property or on other public lands, we have full discretion to deal with those.
Have you all got to read through this thing in its entirety? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I read it. One of my questions was, if I can, Sue, I just went right out the door, but okay, so I'll go back to my list. I did notice there was a couple issues that I kind of, in a couple of the parts where the vehicles, you're allowed to have vehicles, we need to stipulate that all those vehicles need to have a license on them.
You mean
Currently
state
licensed.
registration?
Yeah, currently registered or currently licensed. Now, when we regulate, when we use this ordinance, does this apply to private property or just public property?
This would apply to private property as well.
So I think we need something in there if private property is going to let them park for any extended period of time, that they're going to have to arrange for bathroom facilities from that property owner. I would, I know there's a couple vendors' trucks and people go out there and they pick their food up and they leave. But if we're going to allow multiple vendors, all I can see is more tables. All of a sudden you have permanent structures in place and
Do,
nowhere to do your duty.
I think we might address that in a different way, if you might consider, maybe we should just prohibit picnic tables, just allow them to take the food home and take it away, because your point is well taken. Every restaurant has to provide restrooms for its customers. Why should a mobile vendor be exempt?
well, isn't it mobile, so it can't stay there? Isn't that the point of it being a mobile vendor? That
It's able to be moved, right, that's the
that it has to
definition.
move?
If it's on private property, it doesn't have to move. If it's on public property, it can't just stay put, of course. If it's on the city street, it can't just stay there indefinitely. But on private property, it could if it has a permit. But we could prohibit eating on site if that's an issue. If you want to do bathrooms, or restrooms, you're not going to be able to,
Right, and I don't want to cut necessarily the trucks off or the vendors off, but I also don't want to encourage, if a person that owns a piece of property is going to allow a mobile vendor to be on that property, say in their parking lot. I know there's been a couple in different parking lots in different areas. Where do those people go to the bathroom?
they don't. That's right.
Do we need to make it our concern? I guess would be.
Yeah, I believe so. That's a standard for what you do for health and safety and health requirements. I'm not sure what the county has, but if you serve food, you should have some type of mechanism.
Well, the health department's probably going to not let them stay.
Right, so,
I mean, they would override us anyway. It was on a piece of private property.
right, so maybe by adding bathrooms, we encourage, on the other side, you encourage them to stay.
Well, yeah, but if you have a hot dog vendor push cart, he's not going to have a
No.
restroom.
No.
So it's kind of difficult to have that requirement.
Okay.
Well, if it's on private property, then, and they don't clean up, then it's going to go to the property owner. The property owner is going to be responsible for making sure that the property is clean. He's going to pass that along to whoever he's allowing to be on his property.
Sure. Well, clean is one thing, that's enforceable. Having restrooms for a hot dog push cart is a
No,
little bit
that's,
over the
no.
top.
And having a picnic table is a good thing.
Our item, Mr. Mayor, on 520-120 private property, it says, that's why I wasn't aware when you make the statement of not being on private property. It says here that a mobile food vendor may not park or operate on any privately owned property except with express written present of the record owner thereof.
That's right.
So this isn't a private, this is a public ordinance.
Either way, if you're going to do it on public property, you have to have a permit from us. If you're going to do it on private property, you have to have the written permission of the owner of the property and get a permit from us.
Right, but this ordinance is not a private and public. It's a public ordinance.
It
It's not-
applies to both, public and private. You have to have permission of the private property owner as well.
I see it written that may cause a concern, which is what we're talking about. Item 520-120, read that, what it says?
Plan out, park and operate on any privately owned property.
Except if you have the written consent, then where does it go then? You see what I'm saying? We open up ourselves.
That doesn't say that they're exempt, it just says they have to have permission from the private property owner. That's all it does.
Well, and should there, is it in here already and I missed it? Should there be a time limit? I mean, if you're a mobile, it's mobile, they can only stay for so many hours? I mean,
There is a time limit right above for the public right-of-ways, but not for private.
Just to give you an example, the way
When
it
you get to
started
the-
in my mind, when I was city attorney in Manchester in the 90s, we had Pancho and Lefkowitz in a mobile unit on the parking lot of the drugstore there.
Rite Aid?
They were there for a long time, so they were mobile. They could pack up and leave in a half hour, so they qualified as being mobile, but they were there on private property for many, many years.
They were?
When you get to private
Not
property,
anymore, they moved to.
you're dealing with
their own-
zoning. It's not the licensing of the vendor, it's the use of the property. And therefore, maybe you solve the problem by requiring that if they're going to be on private property, then they need to obtain conditional use permit. Then whatever requirements the planning commission decides will be based on what the business plan is for that particular piece of property.
Since this is draft form, I think we should look at that to be added written or some type of.
I like that suggestion because it allows input from the planning commission
And it gives notice to
to
people
the property
within
owners surrounding them.
300 feet.
I think that's a good addition.
I just think if I was a mobile food truck, I'd want to be on Cindy and Mark's empty lot.
And that's not going to happen.
They've asked that already.
Anything else that anybody's looking? They see?
I didn't see anything.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we forget you guys out there.
You won't forget me, I'm loud. Sarah Montgomery, 5734 Antelope Court. I'm a little bit confused as to what the issue is with mobile food vendors. Food vendors in and of themselves would be a very welcome addition to the city of Weed. Let's be honest, we have, what, 2, 3 options, and then fast food, South Weed. I think that banning tables is a god-awful suggestion. There should be tables for people to sit and eat. There's not bathrooms at these because they are mobile. There's hand washing sanitary stations within the unit itself as required by the health department. Bigger issues would be Burger King in their garbage, Taco Bell in their garbage, Pilot in their garbage, Dollar General's garbage. So are mobile issues, or are we thinking of a specific business here in mind? Because that's kind of what it sounds like.
I don't think we have issues. I think we just don't have an ordinance for them.
Okay,
so
it
we're
sounded like,
creating
it was sounding like the city attorney was expressing issues with
No.
having a table
No.
outside of a business.
I was.
No.
My questions were, do we need bathrooms? I mean, if you, all of a sudden, we have one, but if all of a sudden you have 3 parked in the same area, there are properties at the south end that can present themselves very easily to multiple users, which is fine. I just want to make sure that if there's multiple users, do we need to address the bathroom issue? That was my
I
question.
mean, a public bathroom in that case would be nice, like the city of Mount Shasta has one attached to their city hall building that's for public use.
So do we.
Yeah, so those are options, but I mean, most people know that if there's not a restroom to find one if they need it. I think that mobile food vendors are really becoming a much larger thing. Having mobile food truck areas are a very big thing. That's something that could be very promising for the city of Weed, which no other community really offers. So I think putting roadblocks in to hinder that and potentially losing money for the city would just not be a good idea to make it more difficult.
I don't think that's our intent at all.
Right, I'm just expressing my opinion on it. And the other part of that would be having some sort of a mobile, I think the mobile part you imagine it on wheels, having a trailer that's parked or a small shed, they're more cost effective in running a food service than having a giant commercial kitchen. So that's why you see people that are creating these spaces to have a food court, if you will, that allows for them to have actual low overhead and still be able to serve the general public. So I don't think you want to make that harder for them. I think you want to welcome that and bring additional options that could turn into something else down the road.
We weren't looking at to eliminate it, and I know for a fact we had events downtown, Weed. They have some food vendors there, so we're looking to make them accountable too. So
Right.
So we're looking to enhance. So
Right.
that was the direction from the beginning. I understand.
Okay, that's all I had.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, any more? Do we want to direct Bob to,
So I have two notes here. One is require valid current registration on anything that requires registration, and insert a conditional use requirement for anything on private property. Anything else?
oh, Raymond.
Sorry, Raymond Strack, 3038 National Plain. I would just like to say, just specifically as to the necessitation of a conditional use permit, you'd really be sort of, right now, up and down the 5 from LA to Seattle, there are food trucks that travel, that do pop-up days, that are quite popular online, that people literally follow on Instagram and Facebook and travel to when it's within an hour of them, that are like very high-end culinary establishments that just happen to operate out of a truck. If you require a CUP, you're not going to have those folks that travel up and down the 5 that do the food truck loop be able to stop here, which seems like a pretty big oversight given the amount of traffic we have. If it's permanent, like if they're going to be there for a certain amount of time, or they're putting out tables, or the shade overhang like Ceylon, totally. But for a CUP for more than a X amount of day stay, you're going to stop those people that are going between San Fran and Portland to stop here.
Do they stop here?
They could. I mean, it's there.
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Stopped in Mount Shasta. I follow some food truck accounts on Instagram, and they're like, "We're gonna, we're traveling from San Fran to Portland. Like, you want us to stop in your city?" It's a real thing. So, just FYI.
So if you are going to do the conditional use, we would put, if you're planning on being there parked more than 5 days and consistently.
Yeah, that was 3 days or
Put a
5.
time limit?
Yeah, yeah. If you're going to be there more than 3 days, 5 days, then you need.
Yeah, that would be it.
So my question would be, if we do have those mobile builders that might want to stop, what liability do we have if they do stop, and how can we be available for them to be able to stop? What have you heard, or what has anyone heard that is available? Because they just don't stop in the city and sell. They have to be some type of liability.
Yeah, so for the most part, they stop on private. So again, when they post on Instagram, do you want us to stop in your city? They're looking for someone who goes, oh, I've got a piece of land you can use. Or, oh, I've got, an empty lot that you can come. They're looking for someone to respond and create that conversation. They don't just, park on the sidewalk and do it. They know they're not allowed to do that. But, a lot of cities have those food cart pods, which have a bunch of picnic tables and have the composting bathrooms or the hardwire, or, the actual bathrooms. And it's certainly a very viable business model for interstate towns.
Maybe we can look at that to have that option to know, because there's liability, because you serve food in town, something can happen, we can be held accountable.
Well, they're,
I don't think we can be held accountable for what somebody else prepares. All we're doing is allowing them to have a facility, right?
That's right. Now, this would allow for a daily permit, a weekly permit, whatever length of time is requested, so it wouldn't have to be a big deal. And if it's less than 5 days, there would be no CUP.
yeah, I would think that 5 days would be reasonable.
Okay,
Okay,
so we got that down.
Get us on the map there, Ray.
yeah, get us on the map.
Yeah, I've thought about it, to be honest with you, because I've got, we've got into a lot down there, but Blackview Drive is so potholy and there's all the trucks, it would be really logistically difficult to offer that, but
We can come to the community center.
I'll keep that in mind.
It's
We have
paved,
bathrooms.
Yeah,
and it's paved.
and it's
You can
big.
go out there with your cotton candy machine.
Not Mondays, though.
Good, I can make
Parking
mine
lot's full
good.
on Monday.
That's a good revenue stream for Parks and Rec.
Okay, so we'll have this back on the agenda next month? Okay, thank you. All right, we move on to the consent agenda.
All the good stuff is gone, or over.
Yeah,
Nothing.
nothing? We don't need anything removed from there?
Maybe B, may I ask a question about B? Can we have B removed
Is that consultation with,
for cannabis?
Okay.
So,
that's what I was thinking.
and my question, is that okay, removed?
Sure.
My question is that, just so
Don't we
the,
have to,
Wait,
Yeah.
Oh, we have to-
we have to approve the other ones? Oh, yeah. And
I
then
move that we approve the consent agenda without item B.
second it?
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we'll put item B.
Mine's short, Mr. Palfin, you want to go first, or? I just have a short one.
Well, did you want to speak on it at all?
No, the mayor came to my office on Monday and asked that I put this on the agenda for your consideration. The licenses that we've issued, which were originally medical marijuana dispensaries and ultimately became both that and adult use dispensaries, were for a 3-year period. They expire on December 1, 2020. And the question that the mayor had was whether we needed separate legal counsel to review our ordinances so that if any changes needed to be made or should be made because of modifications that have occurred in state regulations since they were written, would be included and adopted prior to the consideration of renewing the license. The original ordinances that we drafted were drafted in the spring and the summer of 2017, and there's been quite a few changes since then. I did talk to the city attorney. He does feel that he's up to speed on those issues, but I was trying to put this in front of you for consideration because of the request of the mayor.
So the request is just to see how much it would cost or a contract with an outside counsel?
Yeah, I think she wanted to have some discussion about whether or not you think it's appropriate. But we didn't have in front of us a retainer agreement. Ultimately, for you to engage counsel, you're going to need to have the council approve a retainer agreement. So the purpose of my agenda memo was to say that that would come back to you. So if cost was an issue, you would know before you're making a final decision.
I agree with that then, yeah.
We figured we had a water attorney, we have attorneys in specializing, and this attorney doesn't know anybody in town. I found him through a contact that I had in Sacramento.
League of Cities?
Uh-huh.
League of Cities?
Yes, I was at a League of Cities meeting, and actually had contact with a UCLA and professor of, he's law enforcement professor, who then had this person.
And my piece of interest was just so public, I'm about public knowing, to make sure that whatever we have in the plans or in the works are up to date with the state and federal laws, right? That's with the current businesses that we have and ones that might want to come in, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to alleviate 50 years down the road, somebody going, why wasn't this taken care of?
Right.
Now we need a cannabis attorney.
I think it's good for the public to know that, but that's why we're looking at that option to bring in.
And it's
so we're
just-
in compliance.
Yeah.
We do, but that wasn't said, but I think it should be known on record. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I have actually read the ordinances pretty thoroughly. I thought, yes, we need to clean up because we did, as Ron would say, go through what was it, medical cannabis, and then adult cannabis, and then a couple other issues that were constantly popping up.
Well, and that's what we were.
But I would like to see what those charges would be. That would be a good idea.
Yeah, and we had to ask first.
Okay.
Raymond?
Yeah, Raymond Schreck, 3038 Nighthawk Lane. I would just ask that the council really, look at all their options when engaging an attorney for this particular subset of law practice, specifically as it relates to the League of Cities and their attempts to insidiously ban cannabis in numerous jurisdictions, particularly in California District 1 and all along of Eastern California. You had a company called HDL, which was basically a consultant the League of Cities hired to negotiate their part of the state bill, who then turned around and started a consultancy firm selling ordinances to cities, which were rather duplicitous, that, you know, kind of were partially funded by anti-cannabis organizations, including alcohol companies, including pharmaceutical companies, including prison lobbies, and these are also clients of this. You know, HDL is the most ominous of the folks that I'm sort of collectively referring to, but there are definitely wolves in sheep's clothing who are professing to be experts in cannabis law, who are really just there to show their disdain.
We found that one too.
Yeah, and that's why we decided we needed to.
I've met that gentleman a couple of times. You talk to him for more than a few minutes, it is very evident.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, we found that one. They spent a lot of money putting a little book together for us too, that I'm just threw in the garbage.
They're just trying to wow people with it, and it's very,
Yeah.
it's not good.
No, it didn't go very far.
No.
I move we approve that item, whatever number that was, item B.
Item B.
I will second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item B on the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Staff reports.
I know.
Chief Duncan, do you have anything to say?
I do.
Good.
Just one thing. Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
Tomorrow is the first step towards trying to get the exclusive rights removed from the South County contract for ambulance service. It's on Sierra Sacramento, SSV as we call it for short. It's on their Joint Powers Agency Governing Board agenda. I'll be attending it on the phone. It's a phone meeting from 1 to 3. So it's a new introduction, so I don't think they vote on it. They just introduce it tomorrow.
Good.
That's the first step.
Anything else?
Not yet.
Okay.
I was on vacation for 2 weeks, so I just got
yeah.
back.
I've been just dying to talk to somebody.
Mountain lions on your front porch?
I'll have my report next month for
Okay.
the fire department.
Miss Emily?
We are in the throes of the 1819 audit. He will be here on site on the 21st. So we should have that wrapped up pretty quickly after he's done with that. And besides that, that's all I have to report.
Thank you. I have nothing to report. You were also on vacation. Nothing to
Well,
report.
Santa had to take some time off.
I would like to thank you for actually flipping the switch.
On,
On the hill.
The downtown lights were down
Oh.
for quite a while.
oh, yeah,
I don't go.
I
out
noticed
dark,
that.
so
Apparently, nobody goes after that.
Chief Mayberry, wait a minute. Today is Thank a Policeman Day.
Oh, it
Yes,
is.
it is. And so thank you
Thank you.
for being a policeman, because I wouldn't do it.
Glad there are people.
Do you have anything to report? Sure. Okay. Sandy?
You know something he doesn't.
I don't know.
You look like you might.
February, I will be on my annual trip to Paso Robles, so Emily has graciously voluntold to sit here in the hot seat and handle the meeting for the February.
Voluntold.
You push my-
That's one of those
Voluntold and volunteer.
volunteers for the volatil. You see it.
What do you do in Paso Robles?
It's a stock show.
Oh,
A what?
Sock?
stock show.
I
She
thought you
takes,
said a sock show.
Why do you have to go to a show for socks?
Go see the art presentation there.
Oh, is there one?
I got some old ones.
Okay.
Elizabeth has some really funny socks in hers.
so in
It costs like 20.
February, we're on the 13th.
Yeah, the 12th through the 17th.
Okay.
or 12th through the 16th. 16th is a holiday.
So those people in Paso Robles can be ready for a massive snowstorm.
Let's pray not again. Yeah, no. Phoenix was enough.
Ron?
Buy those cows.
Just wanted you to be aware that we are going to have the conference room set up for your interviews. I assume that, first of all, I contacted the IT department and I made sure that they're going to set up the room with the computer and the internet access so that you can do Skype. I obtained a 43-inch television set that can be at the end of the table. We looked at the computer screens that we had, but they appeared to be too small for 6 people to sit around the table and be able to see properly. The city clerk has agreed that she's going to get sandwiches, beverages, so that you'd be comfortable through the entire day. The one thing that I was concerned about, if you're doing preliminary interviews on the 18th of January, you may decide to bring in 1, 2, or 3 additional, 1, 2, or 3 of those individuals for an on-site interview. And some of those interviews, some of those candidates are from out of state or the southern part of our state, which is quite a distance away. So you may have to schedule a week or 2 in between in order for them to get their travel plans in place. And once you do make a selection, you may be selecting someone who currently is available, who could come in right away, but on the other hand, you may also be hiring someone who is under contract and has to give 30, 60, or even 90 days notice to their current employer. Since I can't modify my airline or the tickets I already have to the spring baseball games, when you get to your February meeting, we're going to have a clearer understanding of who you might be selecting and when they might be available. If they're not available to start March 1st, I'm going to recommend to you that you might want to consider hiring Martin on a part-time basis, at least for the month of March, to serve as the interim city manager, if that's necessary. Hopefully it's not necessary, but I just wanted to put that bug in your ear. Bob and I talked about it in some detail this afternoon about how to handle the situation, and that's our recommendation to you. I told the mayor before the meeting started, and I wanted to make sure that I informed all the council members that that might be an appropriate approach to take if you have to.
Okay. Thanks, Ron.
And I have nothing further.
Okay. Nothing? Sure? Okay.
Could I move that we close to go to closed session?
Yeah.
Our meeting is closed. I make the motion.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn at 6:40.
To close session.
To close session. Look at how fast I was.